Hello guys, welcome back to another video. We're going to be working on the BMW 760 Ally today. And when I bought the car a good few months ago now, one of the first things that I'd done was check to see if it had any advisories on the previous MOT. And if you don't know what an MOT is, if you don't live in the UK, it's basically a yearly inspection. So I noticed that there was a good few advisories on the previous MOT. I believe there was 3 or 4. I think one of them was for a front brake pipe which was corroded or covered in grease. I believe that was actually replaced for a copper pipe, so that is all good. Another advisory was for the differential being corroded, and obviously we have already addressed that. When we gave the rear differential a good service, we took all of the surface rust off and then covered it in a layer of grease. So that should be good now for the future. And then I think there's just one more actually. That was for, I think it was excessive play on, I don't know if it was excessive play or just play on the inner steering joint on the front, I believe, something or other like that. But to me that meant that, that means that it's got to be the track rods. Now obviously you can just replace the track rods and reuse the old track rod ends, but chances are they're probably the originals, so you're better off just replacing the whole track rod assemblies on both sides. Of course, you never ever want to replace suspension components in singles. Always replace them in pairs. That's suspension and steering components, always replace them in pairs. So that is exactly what we are going to be doing. We're going to be swapping out the track rods and track rod ends on the BMW 7 Series, and then after we have fitted the new track rod assemblies, we're going to have to take it for a 4-wheel wheel alignment. And yeah, we should hopefully see what the current state of the wheel alignment is in, and then hopefully we should be all good. Now one thing I do want to make note of, is that when I'm driving at sort of high speed, when I say high speeds I only mean 60-70 miles per hour in the 7 Series, I notice that the steering wheel is shaking like mad. Now to be honest, I think it's more of a wheel balancing issue. I don't think it's to do with the track rod, but I could be wrong, so it's going to be interesting to see if what we're doing today fixes that. But yeah, I think that is enough. We're going to get outside and let's get cracking. Okay then, so here we go. As you can see, I have the 7 Series up on ramps. Now they will not be staying on ramps because I need to take the wheels off, of course, but first thing I'm going to do is just remove the front under tray, and then what I'll do is use the trolley jack on the front subframe, and then I will put a jack stand either side to support the weight. Okay then, so that is the front under tray now removed. As you can see, just held in by a bunch of these 8mm self-tapping screws, and then a couple of these push rivet things. Okay then, so as you can see, we now have the front wheels off, and I'm just going to start on the driver's side. And the first thing we're going to want to do is remove this nut just here, which holds the track rod end, the ball joint end, to the hub or the knuckle. And yeah, I don't know how well you can see that, but that looks like it is going to be pretty seized on there. So to give us any chance of getting that thing off, we need to spray it with a penetrant oil. And I'm just going to let that sit for a good few minutes, let it soak in. Okay, so I've let the penetrating oil soak in for a good few minutes, and I'm going to try and crack this nut loose with the impact wrench. It is a 21mm nut, by the way. just to confirm. Yes, it is. Okay, so I'm going to try and hold the ball joint steady in position with some vice grips. Just put that around the ball joint there in the middle. Clamp it on. It's got to be tight because that thing will just spin. Yeah, that didn't work very well. On 3, what are we messing about at? That's definitely loosened it, just lost our grip there. Okay then, so here is the current situation. As you can see, the nut is virtually at the top of the thread, but for whatever reason it won't seem to come up any more. Tried holding the ball joint still, but yeah, it seems to be pretty seized on there. So I think rather than just keep trying and wasting time, I think I'm just going to cut the thread. Literally just cut the top off, cut the nut off, and yeah, it should fall out then. Quickest way really. Much easier. There we are, that is the nut off, the top of the thread fully removed. And we've just got to knock the ball joint out. There we are. Nice and easy. And now I know exactly what you're probably thinking. You're probably thinking, why don't you just put the Torx bit in the top and then, you know, remove the nut with a wrench? Well, it's easier said than done. You know, it's not easy to do when you have a bolt or a nut that is this rusty. You know, like I said, if you were to do that, it's just going to take way longer. That's why I just decided in the end just to cut it off. Okay then, so now that we have the ball joint end free, we obviously need to access the steering rack side next. Now to do that we have to remove this rubber boot here. Now because we have a replacement one of these, doesn't really matter if we damage it. Now obviously if you don't have a replacement and you want to reuse this, then keep it in good condition. But there's just 2 clips that we need to remove. So I'll remove this one on the end first. Just get a pair of pliers on there. Clamp that open, slide it along, easy stuff. And then this clip here, this clamp here, it's just a one-time use only clamp. So we can just essentially break it if you push a screwdriver in there or a pick, whatever you have. We just need to pop this open and it should just fall off. There we are. That's that clamp off then, and now the boot should just pop off. Yeah. Do we have any leaking? No, we don't. Just have some grease, which is good. We can slide this along now. And once you have the rubber boot all the way over to one side, we should then have some flaps exposed. We need to get a wrench on here. You can either use an adjustable wrench, or if you want to try and find the correct size, I find this one works quite well. This is 1 inch and 7/16. Yes, I thought it was 17/16 on a previous video, but someone corrected me. Yes, it is 1 inch and 7/16, so this should work quite well. And we'll just crack this loose. There we are, should be on very tight. Once you have cracked it loose, should be able to twist the whole thing off. just keep twisting until it eventually comes off, like so. Okay then, so now that we have the track rod assembly off of the car, we need to get our new track rod assembly and try and make it as close as possible to the length of the original, because we know that the front toe adjustment, the wheel alignment, is relatively good on the car. It's not going to be spot on, obviously it hasn't been for a wheel alignment in some time, but we know it is safe to drive as is. So we need to try and replicate the exact same length with the new setup. Okay then, so as you can see, we have our new setup all pretty much ready now, and it's important to note that before you put the track rod and the track rod end together, you will need to install the rubber boot, because obviously you have no other way of getting it over. It's only just thin enough to allow the track rod itself to go through the end there. It's a good idea to install the securing clips as well, the new securing clips. It's not essential to do so, you can open them up and, you know, install them after, but once they're in place, you know that you haven't got to move them when you're underneath the car. Another thing to note, it's a good idea to put some kind of grease. Now I've got some red rubber grease here just for these threads. It's just going to make whoever does your wheel alignment, it's just going to make their job a whole lot easier. You can use copper grease, anti-seize, whatever you want to use, but I've got some red rubber grease today. I thought I'd give that a try. But yeah, as you can see, I'm pretty happy that we have both of these assemblies pretty much now the exact same length. Now obviously you're not going to get it, you know, exactly bang on. It's probably going to be a couple of millimeters out, but that is why you go for the wheel alignment. Now there is a couple of ways that you can try and get these as close as possible. You can, you know, disassemble the original assembly and count the turns from, you know, count the turns that you have to twist the track rod end off of the track rod, or you can measure it, or you can just do it by eye, and I like to do it with eye, and it's, you know, generally pretty close. I haven't got to drive too far anyway with this track rod assembly, so yeah, I'm not going to be putting too much wear on my tyres. But yeah, I'm relatively happy with that now, so I think this is now ready to be put back on the car. Okay then, so when it comes to installation, it's pretty much the exact opposite to removal. So we need to start off by twisting this end into the steering rack itself. Okay, so as you can see, I managed to get the track rod assembly started inside of the steering rack itself. It can be a bit difficult trying to find the best angle of attack with all of the control arms in the way, but once you get it started, it's all good. But yeah, now that it's in, I can just twist the entire assembly and make sure it's fully screwed in place. And before we tighten that end down, I'm going to make sure we have the ball joint inside of the hub, just so this can't spin when we are tightening that end down. There we are. There we are. You should know when it's tight because it just bottoms out. You can't go any tighter than that. And now we should be able to slide our new rubber boot over the steering rack. Make sure there's nothing in the way, no debris. Oh, we actually have an O-ring on here which we need to replace. Use a pick to remove the old one. I'm just going to snap this, or cut it, should I say. And obviously you would install this before you install the track rod assembly, ideally, but I've just popped off the ball joint end again. Obviously it wasn't tightened down anyway, but yeah, now I've just slid over the new O-ring. Yeah, there we are, and slide it into position. Yeah, it's just popped straight in, which is good. But yeah, with that now done, we can slide our new rubber boot over the steering rack. I might have to open this up slightly. There we are. should slide over. That's seated all round. Yes, it is. Now we can start clamping this down. Now we just need to grab some pliers and pinch this tight, and that should be nice and secure then. There we are. Sorted. Then we can do the exact same on this side of the boot. Make sure it is seated correctly. If you're not sure, just compare it to the side that you haven't done yet. So here we'll get our clamp in place. And there we are then, that is that side nice and tight as well. Now all that's left to do is tighten down the securing nut on the ball joint end. Now we just need to torque it down. And as you can see then, that is this side now complete. Now just got to do the exact same on this side now. Okay, so just got the other side off, and I believe this was the issue joint. There's a lot of play in that joint there. I think that is what was the advisory on the MOT. If you have a look there, actually rusting as well, which I don't know what that's about. Maybe some moisture has managed to get in here. Oh, I also noticed that this end was actually attached with a zip tie as well, so I don't know if someone's maybe been in here before or if this has been replaced in the past but just poorly done. I don't know what the case was, but yeah, I think this was our issue here. And with the one side complete, that is the other side complete as well. And if you've done everything correctly, then you should notice that the steering wheel should be centered while both of the wheels are pointing forward, which they are in our case. Okay then, let's get the wheels back on the car, let's get this thing back on the ground, and let's wrap this job up. Okay then guys, so there we go, that is the track rod assemblies replaced on the BMW 7 Series, and I have just got back from a wheel alignment. I have the results here. So as you know, with a BMW there is quite a lot of adjustments that need to be made. There is the front toe adjustment, which is the main adjustment that we have altered today. There is also the rear toe and the rear camber adjustments. So you need to go for a 4-wheel wheel alignment, ideally on a Hunter alignment machine, and that's what I've done. So as you can see, we have the results here, and this is before and this is after. So like I said, we have replaced the track rod assemblies on the front. So yeah, the before measurement for the toe was actually way out, and when I say way out, I mean in actual reality it's not way out, but it is around 1 degree, which is, you know, off the chart basically for you know, for this diagram. But yeah, that has all been corrected now, bang on in the middle on both sides for the front toe. Now what was interesting is that on the rear camber was out of specification on both sides. As you can see, that is pretty much bang in the middle now on both sides, but the rear toe was out of specification on both sides. But there was actually an issue when it comes to the rear toe. There is essentially a control arm, and it has an eccentric bolt through it, and when you rotate the bolt, it basically moves the hub outwards or brings it in, and that's how you have your toe adjustment. But the eccentric bolt had actually seized into the bush of the control arm. So the guy who'd done the wheel alignment, he didn't want to you know, risk it, because obviously it could snap. And I completely agree. You know, if it was me and I was dealing with a customer's car, I wouldn't want to snap a bolt because then obviously you have to replace it. But yeah, so the rear toe, that couldn't be put back into specification. When he adjusted the rear camber, that did make the toe go in slightly, but yeah, obviously not to where it should be. So I am going to have to get some replacement rear toe arms, the control arms, and some new bolts as well. So yeah, it's always good news. But yeah, I'm pleased to say that the car does actually drive a whole lot better now. Took it for a good drive on the way home, and yeah, it seems a lot more firm, a lot more stable, especially at high speeds. And yeah, I guess when we fit those new rear toe arms, it's going to be like even better still. So yeah, it's definitely worthwhile doing. If you have not taken your BMW for a wheel alignment, I would highly recommend doing so, especially if it is at least a few years old, because you will get quite a lot of benefit from it. Not only are you going to have better handling, but you are, you're going to be saving your tires, because even if your, let's say for example, your rear camber is out by like 1 degree, it's going to mean that you're going to be wearing usually the inner edge of your tire like a lot faster. So yeah, it's definitely worth going for a wheel alignment, a proper 4-wheel wheel alignment periodically. I tend to go every 3 months or so, and that generally does the job quite well. Now then, I want to thank all of you guys for watching this video. Please give it a like if you have enjoyed it, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one. Peace!